Hi there, Nate Urandi, Orion Training Systems. Happy belated Thanksgiving to those here in the States. Hope it was a lot of great times and fun with family and friends. Um, you know, the more I read about sports, the more I'm disappointed in the blind faith of fandom. I'm just going to jump right in today. Lines in the sand are drawn by fans. They're drawn by me, they're drawn by you, they're drawn by everybody who's a fan of any given sport. And these lines that are drawn are nationalistic, for example, with regards to Olympics or the World Cup in soccer or football, however you define the sport, cycling, world championships, things like that. These dividing lines can be drawn by sport, by event, by individual athletes in a given sport or in a given event, and so forth. We all have our favorites. This is what makes the sporting world go round. But it's when we allow the favoritism to blind us to reality is when we run into problems. And the real problem is when you're confronted with certain things that instead of doing your own due diligence, doing your own research, trying to find some sort of background knowledge and really digging into the facts, good, bad, or ugly, fans are left with only two possible paths of recourse. That's either believe in the athlete or believe that any athlete at any time in any situation is innocent until proven guilty. But neither one of those arguments holds up. Neither one of those stances holds up. We know already it is reasonable to peg doping and cheating athletes at roughly 50 to 70% in any given sport at the elite level. That's been shown through a multitude of studies. And you've got some that are above that, studies that show above that. You got studies that show below that. To me, those are outliers. You kind of say, who really, what was the motivation behind these studies? And you throw out the lows and the highs, and the majority fall in this 50 to 70 percentile. So how does that allow for the belief in what any athlete professes about his or her innocence? If 50 to 70%, so call it half to two-thirds, of athletes at the elite level are dopers or cheats, how can you believe any athlete when that athlete responds to a journalist, a reporter, looks into the camera and says, "I'm clean"? You can't. Doesn't mean they're cheating, but you can't believe them at face value. You just can't. Secondly, innocent until proven guilty falls down immediately when you simply look at the laundry list of athletes professing innocence only to be proven guilty. They've brought this upon themselves. We're not in some sort of new generation of entirely clean athletes, this nirvanic state, this utopian state of athletics where now everybody coming into sports is clean. History has proven over and over and over again, one generation to the next, one decade to the next, one century to the next, that this clearly is not the case. And you can't look at the ABP, the athlete biological passport. You can't look at WADA and anti-doping measures and anything else that has been introduced to provide this ludicrous facade of something being done, and point to that and say that shows that these athletes who are now professing their innocence are truly innocent, or they haven't been tested positive and therefore they have to be clean. They have to be. Look at all these measures. That's the whole facade. And each sport is enveloped in controversy around ped use. Let's get that out on the table. So if history has done nothing else, it's proven that where there's smoke, there's fire. So your sport is not cleaner than any other sport. I'm sorry to burst that bubble. Just accept that, whether it's rugby, U.S. Football, baseball, hockey, track and field, triathlon, cycling, running, cross-country skiing. you name it, it's really no different than in any other sport out there. So accept that. Now, there's this other thing that's really kind of a huge piece of the puzzle in all this, and this is good versus evil. That's a classic case of misdirection. Take Russia as a great case in point. Everybody's focused on Russia, the athletes that tested positive, the whole, Icarus movie, the institutionalized doping that was endemic in that country. And lest we forget that roughly 40 years ago, the good old US of A instituted out of competition drug testing not to catch the cheats, but rather to help them better understand periods of glowing in order to maximize the benefits of PED use and minimize the chance of getting caught in events that actually tested. This is the type of stuff you learn when you do the research that you wouldn't otherwise realize happened and continues to happen. And it wasn't just the USA, Canada, the UK, Russia, Japan, China, you name it, the vast majority of big-time sporting countries followed suit. So when you have that as the underlying foundation of sport, then when you look at it nationalistically, sport-specific, event-specific, individual-specific, you realize that there's a massive trickle-down effect of corruption that is woven into the very fabric of sport itself. So, this really wasn't necessarily an anti-doping crusade type of video, but I'm hoping that this stream of thought in some way opens up just one person's eyes, hopefully more than one, but hopefully just one person, so that the next time any athlete in question, talks about their innocence and what else can I do? Well, there's a shit ton you can do, a metric shit ton that you can do that you're not doing in order to really show and prove innocence. So I'll leave you with that. Again, welcome any and all comments, good, bad, and ugly. Leave them down below or respond on Twitter or wherever you might see this video. And in the meantime, happy training.